Hey, what's up, y'all? And of course, welcome to another alternative factuals video. Yes, forgive me. There's been a lot going on this past week, and I wouldn't say I wasn't in the right headspace, but I was definitely in a different headspace due to the nature of the things that's been transpiring the last week and a half. I just wanted to make sure that I was in a decent enough headspace in terms of making sure that I was able to do this video for you guys, because we were supposed to have another live stream kind of talking about the issues that's going on today, having to do with the riots and the protesting and our points of views on it, and the importance now more than ever of black comic book characters, black heroes in general, and just black actors, black directors. Like there's a reason why all this is important, especially now more than ever, because we need to be able to tell these stories. And me being a content creator for you guys, for about 8,000 people who subscribe to my channel, I need to make sure that I'm taking advantage of every opportunity that I can to let you guys know and use my platform to kind of expand people's knowledge and expand people's minds, so that way they can understand, you know, what the protest is supposed to do and the meaning behind it, and not just look on the surface in terms of what's going on, you know, in the aftermath when it comes to the looters and rioters and stuff like that. There's a reason for everything, and I'm not going to get into details about it in this video. But before I dive into the details of this juicy, succulent, delicious video, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're feeling. And without further and or possible maybe and or do let's kind of just jump into things. Okay, so this week I wanted to talk about Everett Thomas, aka Sync. Now, Sync is a mutant who was first introduced in X-Men number 36, when basically his powers are very interesting. And one thing a lot of people don't know about his powers, or a lot of people don't give credit to Sync's powers, is he has the mutant ability to equip himself with this bioenergetic aura that allows him to duplicate the effects of other powers of any super powered being in his vicinity. Now, what makes him possibly the most powerful being to walk the earth in Marvel, you know, in Marvel's universe, even possibly in the multiverse, is simply just due to the nature of what his powers can do. And not only is he able to, like I said, copy powers and of any superpowered being, they actually theorize that Sync seemingly has a greater mastery of mutant abilities than his peers. So I'm going to give you an example, and I won't say that's hypothetically, that's actually been proven. But for example, let's say if he was able to utilize his I guess Franklin Richards' ability to manipulate matter on a universal scale, he actually not only would be able to gain access to that ability, the fact of the matter is he would be able to access that power and then also gain access to the mastered version of it, meaning he would have access to Franklin Richards' powers as an adult, even though currently Franklin Richards as a child. So, well, he's not a child, he's a teenager, but you get the point. Ultimately, he will get the mastered version of that form. It's basically like Goku tapping into Ultra Instinct. He got the mastered version of the form, even though he was only tapping into the ability. Don't get me started about Dragon Ball Super, poorly written. Okay, but anyways, now what has been theorized about his ability is Sync would have the ability to permanently retain any powers he acquired. However, due to the nature of his abilities, abilities that were like purely physical abilities, or abilities that exceeded his physical makeup, is something that they say would not register with his body, or he would not be able to sync with abilities that allowed him to physically augment or change his body in particular ways. However, it's not so much of a weakness. It's more or less just a technicality of his abilities, where obviously if someone's a reality warper, their body can only do certain specific things, or maybe their powers are only for reality warping. But let's say you actually manage to absorb the abilities of somebody who is able to augment their power, so that way they can take on purely physical abilities, then Sync could do the same thing. So in reality, it's not always about, he's not necessarily weak to physical abilities or can't absorb physical abilities. He just doesn't have the ability to sync with the immediate power that allows him to access more physical abilities. So in the long run, he would have to absorb someone's abilities who allow him to change his physical ability. Then he would have to absorb the physical ability in itself. So it's just an extra step in order for him to be able to achieve that ability. So there's a way around it. It's just going to take a little extra when it comes to like maybe healing or something like that, or maybe physically altering his molecular structure, anything along those lines. But he just has to absorb an ability that allows him to partake in another when it comes to physical attributes. Now, here's what I want to discuss mostly about this whole Sync situation and his abilities and how powerful he possibly is. Now, there's been multiple occasions in which Sync has been present in Marvel Comics. Obviously, he's not someone who's completely unknown. What makes his character really frustrating is he suffers from the same kind of situation that Blue Marvel does. In a lot of ways, he is written out of a lot of situations due to the nature of his power, and also what makes this really out of control is that basically his powers kind of put him in like a nice little box, like, you know, along with Blue Marvel, along with Spectrum, along with Everett Thomas, or like I said, Sync, along with even characters I would hypothetically even say like Franklin Richards. In a lot of ways, they leave him out of situations, and in order for them to be in a story, their abilities either have to be nerfed or they have to be killed. Now, none of those other characters that I mentioned have been killed except for Sync. He was killed at one point. I do think he is currently alive. I don't remember off the top of my head. However, at one point they had to kill him off because he was just so powerful. He was too powerful. But what gets me frustrated about this whole situation is the simple fact that not only did they kill off Sync, but they actually introduced a character that pretty much has the same exact ability as he does for the most part, and that's basically just Hope Summers. She has the same ability as Sync. Now, this is why I say this is kind of gets a little bit political in a sense. So instead of someone who is a black character who basically has the means to literally keep absorbing the abilities of everyone in the Marvel universe with no upper limit to his abilities, at least not that we know of, and potentially he probably can match. And now, like I said, this is maybe a little bit of a reach. I'm just giving this for the sake of the example. He might have the ability to even match and permanently keep the abilities of characters like the Living Tribunal, or maybe the One Above All, you know, characters like that, because there hasn't been any upper limit to the abilities he's able to match. It just says any super powered being in his vicinity, and still theorize that he's able to gain those abilities in a mastery form. So there's no upper limit to the abilities that he has that we know of. But the fact of the matter is they had to kill him off and reintroduce a character, or introduce a character named Hope Summers, basically a child of two white parents who still are mutants by definition, because, you know, you have Cyclops and then you have Jean Grey. They had a kid because, you know, obviously they have another kid in another alternate timeline who goes by the name of Cable, but supposedly their genetic bonding or whatever like that is somehow always makes these offspring, or these children who are supposed to be so powerful, like Cable, who, if he was actually able to live to his full potential, his telepathic powers would be off the charts, which we've seen actually in a couple storylines. But also we have Hope Summers, who has the same ability as Sync pretty much, but she's just a white redhead woman, which I don't completely agree with. I don't understand why they had to take him out, you know, to introduce the same ability but just in a white character. And they wrote plenty of stories around Hope. They wrote plenty, you know, plot lines around Hope. Even now in the, you know, House of X, Powers of 10, when they show that she's a part of this group of people who help resurrect other mutants. Basically, she amplifies their abilities, and kind of they create these other not humans, but these other X-Men as a way to kind of resurrect them, where Charles Xavier can bring in their mind, their psyche, and pretty much bring them back from the astral plane. And then basically those five, I forget, is it 5 or 7? I forget. But ultimately they bring them into this physical form, and then bring them their old selves into the body using Charles Xavier's abilities or whatever like that. And then thus they're reborn in a new body that's a lot healthier, technically by definition, younger in terms of the amount of wear and tear it has on it. So that's what I'm saying. It's very, 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 very out of control in a lot of ways. And Sync has been one of those constant characters, just like Blue Marvel, where so many issues could have been solved in such a short amount of time, but they refuse to use his character just because, one, it's poor storytelling, so to speak, because of his powers, and two, it is related because he's black, because, like I said, they've introduced characters like Hope Summer who have matching abilities to him, but they just refuse to use the originator of his powers. He by far is one of the most powerful, and honestly, I think, like, I'm pretty sure he's alive right now. He got brought back at some point, but the fact of the matter is, Sync is by far one of the most powerful mutants to ever walk or touch the earth. Forget Franklin Richards, forget even characters like Blue Marvel, forget, you know, Matthew Malloy, forget Molecule Man. Like, he's able to match all their powers in its full mastery form. And even Hope Summers, you know, he can definitely just feed, they can just keep feeding off each other, technically, in theory, but there's no upper limit to his abilities. We've never seen it, and they've just killed him off just for the sake of killing him off, which is really, really sad, really, really upsetting. But ultimately, he is by far, or potentially by far, one of the most powerful beings we've ever seen kind of being born into the Marvel universe, and is not only a mutant, but he's a black mutant on top of that. So I wanted to bring this to your attention. I wanted you guys to kind of talk in the comments. Let me know what you think. Why do you think this is a situation in terms when it comes to his character that they had to kill him off and introduce someone like Hope Summers? Or let me know in the comments, like, what do you think his upper limits might be? Just give me your opinions about this character in general when it comes to Sync, because he is by far extremely powerful. He does not get enough credit, and there are a lot of black characters out there that don't get enough credit, or that get replaced by white characters who's supposed to take their spotlight. And I'm not doing this to, you know, incite, you know, propaganda. This is just the nature of what it is sometimes in comics, where Spectrum, even though she was the first, you know, Captain Marvel, she was eventually replaced with Carol Danvers, who almost seemingly has taken over the title completely, and people forget that Spectrum, Monica Rambeau, was indeed Captain Marvel, and in a lot of ways she is more powerful, but she does not get the credit that Carol Danvers does, even though people don't like Carol Danvers. Most people don't. But still, even when she does do something decent, or maybe when she's mentioned, people don't bring up Monica Rambeau nearly as often as Carol Danvers when it comes to the nature of energy projection and energy abilities, when it comes to, you know, cosmic energy or electromagnetic spectrum abilities, anything like that, as well as Blue Marvel. A lot of these black characters don't get that credit. Sync falls in that category. By far, can be the most powerful person to have ever lived throughout Marvel history, but they found a cheap way to kill him, and we end up in a situation like this. But let me know what you think in the comments. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and remember, it is more important now to use your platforms to communicate people of color and advocate for black people, because they're really killing us out there. And for the nature of this video, I want to make sure we all know that, you know, we gotta love each other, uplift each other, and I hope to see y'all later on. Peace out.